Yeah, I wanted to know when you arrived there. I guess you go to events with preconceptions as to what you're going to encounter. Were you prepared for what you saw, and how did it affect you personally?
No, look, I was in Vietnam, and so the reports were starting to come through that there was some sort of tsunami. The tsunami warning, as you know, went up and down the entire coastline. In fact, such was the magnitude of the tsunami, the world literally jumped by 10 millimeters that day, and it was felt in Alaska on the other side of the world. And so the warnings went out all throughout the coastline of Vietnam, and obviously ground zero was down in Aceh in Indonesia and also Thailand. So I rang work and said, is this huge? It sounds pretty huge. And by that stage, reports were coming through. Yes, it's big. You need to get there. I was on holidays, but they said, if you don't mind going down there and seeing what was there. Flying in, obviously, the airport was barely workable, but the airstrip was clear. Obviously, they had to clear it to start allowing for the C-130s and other humanitarian aid to come through. But again, the devastation was immense. And also the people. I mean, let's not forget, 250,000 people died. Many tens of thousands just within Thailand. I mean, I was in Khao Lak. There were 4,000 locals lost there. They think it could be up to 14,000. Of course, a lot of the workers were from Burma and not registered. They were just illegal migrants working the fields and so forth. And the mentality of the people, I think, was what really struck me. I mean, the blank faces, no one can really talk. It was just absolute horror. A lot of tears by all those around you, and a lot of, I mean, you don't get the sort of aid that you would in a Western country. So you haven't got counsellors there immediately to talk to these people, and some of the things they were thinking and saying is, I remember one woman, there was concrete steps to a house, but there was no house there. There was just a deep pit, and there was a pump running to pump water out. And she was sitting on that front step saying, "I'm just waiting for my husband to come home." And initially I thought, well, maybe he's getting supplies or something. And, where is he? Oh, he's here behind me. And obviously the mentality of her thinking that he was just going to emerge once the water was pumped out. And she was saying, yeah, the water will go down and he'll come back out to me and sit with me. I'm preparing his lunch. Would you like to join us? And it's that sort of thing. So, it was harrowing from a personal perspective.
I mean, obviously, that's just a tragic story. I admire journos like yourself who can go to those places. How do you focus on doing your job, which is to report to the world what's happened without being so personally caught up and affected by it that you're just unable to, function? I would really struggle in a situation like that.
Look, you're certainly nervous to events around you and those around you and those emotions around you, but you've got a job to do, and that's to report to the rest of the world. They want to know what's going on, and you want to do your job, and so you just go for however long it takes, days. In this case, it was weeks, and get on with it. And you do become involved in the story. There was a young Swedish family, and very tragically and sadly, they lost their children, and they asked me, can you help look for them? And I'm like, well, of course, if I see anybody, I'll and they'll show me photos of their children. And they pointed to this makeshift morgue and said, no, can you go look for them in there? And, it's kind of obviously not my role. I'm not a professional in that sense to do that. But I would have gone through 100 body bags that day looking for their loved ones and just looking for blonde hair. Really, that's all you could do, and to report back for them. So you do become involved in the story. You try not to be. You don't want to be the story, but obviously you're a human being as well, and you want to help anyone who's in need, and especially for that family who were very much in need and very traumatized.
I just want to ask you one more question before we go. As someone who was there, who saw the aftermath of it, saw the human tragedy of it, I know it's 20 years ago, but I'm sure it has a lasting effect on you. What did it change about I guess, your perspective in life? Did it make a difference to you moving forward, having been there and seen what happened?
Oh, look, the frailty of humankind, I guess, is always there, especially when we do cover a lot of these stories. So, I guess in that sense, it does. The fragility of it all. It does remind you that you keep your loved ones close to you, and you give them that time, and nothing's too difficult. And when things are too difficult, you think, well, actually, 20 years ago today, think about what some of those families went through and what they had to put up with. So it does change your personal effect. And I don't like watching that tsunami movie, and people say, "Oh, you were there. You should watch that." And you were there. Do you remember this scene? And I don't like watching that film because it was so real life. It really was. I think was it Watts was in that, the Aussie actress, but it was so real life.
Yes, yes, that's right.
I need to see it again.
Yeah. Well, Charles Miranda, it's great to talk to you, and I appreciate you sharing your experience with me tonight.